Look, I need to tell you about the time my husband completely lost his mind over me helping out an old friend. Because apparently wanting to spend weekends doing some actual productive work instead of watching him scroll through his phone makes me some kind of terrible person. I'm Madison, I'm 34, and I've been married to Adam for 8 years. 8 years of watching this man go from being this confident guy who knew what he wanted to this person who second guesses everything and acts like I'm going to disappear if he blinks wrong. It's exhausting, really. So when Peter, that's my ex-husband, called me up last spring asking if I could help him with some renovations at his lake house, I didn't think twice about saying yes. Peter and I have always stayed friendly after our divorce. We're adults. We can handle being around each other without it being weird. Plus, I actually know that house better than anyone since we bought it together years ago before everything fell apart. The morning I decided to tell Adam about my new weekend plans, I was making coffee in our kitchen, just stirring it casually while he sat there reading something on his tablet. So I'm going to be spending weekends at Peter's lake house for a while, I said, not really looking up because I figured he'd be fine with it. He needs help with some renovations, and I know that house inside and out. Adam went completely still. Like, weird still. Every weekend? He asked, and there was this tone in his voice that immediately put me on edge. Not every weekend, just when he needs help. I finally looked at him, and I could see that look forming on his face. That insecure, jealous look that I absolutely cannot stand. You're not going to make this weird, are you? Because that's exactly what he was doing. Making something perfectly innocent into this big, dramatic thing. I mean, what did he think was going to happen? That I was going to run off with my ex-husband just because we were working on some home improvement projects together? How long has this been going on? He asked, and I could hear the accusation in his voice. It's not going on. It's helping a friend. My shoulders tensed up because I could feel this conversation heading in a direction I did not want to deal with. Why are you being so dramatic about this? And that's when he really started with the interrogation. When did Peter ask for help? How often would I be going? What kind of work were we doing? Question after question, like I was some kind of criminal instead of his wife who was just trying to help someone out. Last month, I told him, standing up because I was getting annoyed with his whole attitude. Look, I don't understand why you're making this into some big investigation. If you don't trust me spending weekends at my ex-husband's lake house, then you're way too insecure for me. I meant it too. Like, what kind of husband doesn't trust his wife to help a friend with some basic home repairs? It's not like we were going to be alone in some romantic cabin. We were talking about installing kitchen cabinets and fixing deck railings. Actual work. But instead of apologizing for being ridiculous, Adam just got this calm look on his face that I'd never seen before. You're right about everything, he said quietly. That threw me off. What? You're absolutely right. I am being insecure. He stood up and rinsed his mug in the sink like nothing had happened. Do whatever you think is best. Well, good. Finally. Oh, okay, I'm glad you understand, I said, though I was a little confused by how quickly he'd back down. Usually he'd drag these things out for hours. But whatever. At least I could get on with my weekend plans without having to deal with his jealousy issues. That first weekend at Peter's place was exactly what I needed. Actual productive work with someone who appreciated my input instead of just sitting around our house watching Adam zone out in front of the TV. Peter and I have always worked well together. We have similar taste, we're both decisive, and we can get things done without a bunch of unnecessary drama. We tackled the kitchen first, installing new cabinet hardware and painting the walls this gorgeous sage green that I picked out. Peter was so grateful for my help, kept saying how much better everything looked with my touch. It felt good to be useful, to be working with someone who actually valued my opinions. The best part was how relaxed everything felt. No walking on eggshells, no worrying about saying the wrong thing. Just two adults working together and enjoying each other's company. We'd take breaks on the deck overlooking the water, drinking coffee, and planning out the next project. It reminded me of why Peter and I had gotten along so well in the first place. When I got home Sunday evening, Adam asked how everything went, and I showed him pictures of our progress. "Look what we got done this weekend," I said, scrolling through the photos on my phone. "The kitchen is really coming together." "Looks great," he said, barely glancing at the screen. "You two work well together." "We always did," I said without thinking, then caught myself. "I mean, we have similar taste in renovations." Adam just nodded and went back to whatever he was doing on his laptop. No more questions, no more jealousy. Finally acting like a mature adult about the whole situation. The next few weekends fell into a perfect rhythm. I'd pack my overnight bag Friday afternoon, drive out to the lake house, and spend the weekend actually accomplishing something meaningful. Peter and I made incredible progress. We refinished the hardwood floors, updated all the light fixtures, and started working on the master bathroom. Meanwhile, Adam seemed to be adjusting just fine. He stopped asking detailed questions about my weekend plans and started being more supportive. "Drive safely," he'd say when I left. "That sounds wonderful," he'd respond when I told him about our latest project. It was like he'd finally grown up and stopped being so needy. I started going out there during the week too sometimes. Peter would text me about picking up supplies or wanting my opinion on tile samples, and I'd swing by after work. Why shouldn't I? It's not like Adam needed me home every single night to watch him play on his phone. At book club. Well, I'd been skipping book club lately because, frankly, sitting around talking about romance novels seemed pretty pointless when I could be doing actual productive work. But when I did go, the other women were always asking about my renovation project. They thought it was so sweet that I was helping Peter fix up the place. "You two are making real progress," Rachel from book club said one evening. "She talks about it all the time, says you're really transforming that place." Which was true. We were transforming it. Peter kept saying how the house felt more like home than it ever had, how my touch was making all the difference. It was nice to be appreciated, for once. Adam, meanwhile, had started doing his own thing more. He'd mention running errands or working on projects, which was great because it meant he was finally developing some independence instead of just waiting around for me to entertain him. Sometimes he'd be gone for hours on weekend afternoons, and when I asked what he'd been up to, he'd just say, "Boring financial stuff," or "investment research." Good for him, I thought. Maybe he was finally taking some initiative with our future, instead of just coasting along. The thing is, I wasn't hiding anything from Adam. I was completely open about helping Peter with the renovations. I showed him pictures, told him about our progress, kept him updated on everything we were doing. If he had problems with it, he could have said something instead of just acting supportive and then secretly having issues. But that's exactly what he was doing apparently. Having secret issues while pretending everything was fine. I should have known something was up when Thomas, our neighbor, stopped me at the grocery store one Tuesday evening. "Hey, how's the lake house project going?" he asked. "Your husband mentioned you've been helping with renovations for a while now." Wait, what? I kept my smile in place, but inside I was confused. When had Adam talked to Thomas about my weekend plans, and why would he say it had been going on for a while, when I'd only told him about it recently? "Going great," I said casually. "Peter's got good taste in that stuff." But driving home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Had Adam been talking to the neighbors about my renovation work? And if so, what exactly had he been saying? That night, I decided to check our credit card statements online, just to see if there were any charges I'd forgotten about. What I found made my stomach drop. Gas charges. Lots of them. Dating back 3 months. All at the station exactly halfway to Peter's lake house. 3 months of weekend trips. 3 months of Friday afternoon fill-ups and Sunday evening fill-ups. A perfect pattern that showed exactly how often I'd been driving out to the lake house. But that was impossible. I'd only started helping Peter recently. Hadn't I? I sat there staring at the screen, trying to remember exactly when Peter had first called me about the renovations. Had it been last month, like I'd told Adam? Or had it been longer ago than that? The more I thought about it, the fuzzier the timeline became. Peter and I had been talking about the house for months, really. He'd mentioned wanting to update some things, and I'd offered suggestions, Then he'd asked if I wanted to come take a look at what he was thinking, and I'd driven out there one weekend to give him my opinion. And then we'd started working on small projects together. It had been gradual, not some sudden decision. But when Adam had questioned me about it, I'd gotten defensive and made it sound like a recent thing because I didn't want to deal with his jealousy about me spending time with Peter. Still, 3 months seemed like a long time. Had I really been making those weekend trips for that long? I closed the laptop and went upstairs, where Adam was already in bed reading. He looked up when I came in, and for a second I thought about asking him about the credit card charges. But then I decided against it. What was the point? We were both adults, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. If he had questions about our finances, he could ask them directly instead of making me feel like I had to justify every purchase. "Good day?" he asked, setting his book aside. "Fine, just catching up on some paperwork." I got ready for bed, and we settled into our usual routine. Everything normal, everything fine, except it wasn't fine apparently. Because the next week, Adam started acting different. Not suspicious exactly, but more attentive. He'd ask about my day in more detail, want to know about my plans for the evening. Not in a controlling way, just like he was more interested in my life than he'd been in months. It was actually kind of nice, like maybe my weekend independence had reminded him not to take me for granted. Then one Friday, as I was packing my overnight bag for another weekend at Peter's, Adam mentioned that he had some errands to run while I was gone. "What kind of errands?" I asked, folding my clothes into the bag. "Just some investment stuff I've been researching. Boring financial planning." I nodded, pleased that he was taking more initiative with our future. "Well, I'm glad you're taking care of that. We should probably start thinking more seriously about our long-term plans." "Already on it?" he said, and something in his tone made me look up at him. He had this expression I couldn't quite read. Not happy, not sad, just determined. "Everything okay?" "Everything's great. Have a good weekend with your renovation project." I kissed his cheek and headed out, feeling good about how mature we'd both become about the whole situation. No more jealousy, no more drama. Just two adults living their lives and supporting each other's interests. Peter and I had an amazing weekend working on the master bathroom. We installed new tile, updated the vanity, and hung this gorgeous mirror that completely transformed the space. By Sunday evening, we were both exhausted but so proud of what we'd accomplished. "This place is really starting to feel like home," Peter said as we cleaned up our tools. "I can't thank you enough for all your help with this." "I love working on it with you," I said, and I meant it. There was something so satisfying about creating something beautiful with someone who appreciated your efforts. I drove home Sunday night, feeling accomplished and happy, ready to show Adam the pictures of our latest project. But when I walked into the house, something felt different. Adam was sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open, and he had this focused expression that I hadn't seen in years. "There you are," he said, looking up when I came in. "How was the renovation weekend?" "Really productive. We finished the master bathroom." I pulled out my phone to show him the pictures, but he barely glanced at them. "That's great. Listen, I need to tell you about my weekend too." Something in his voice made me pause. "Okay. I bought a lake house." I stared at him. "You what?" "I bought a lake house." "Well, technically I bought it with a business partner. We closed on Friday." My mind went completely blank. "What are you talking about? What business partner? When did you even look at lake houses?" "While you were working on your renovation projects, I figured if lake houses were such great investments, I should get in on the action too." This was insane. You can't just buy property without discussing it with your wife. Adam laughed, actually laughed. "Really? That's your position? After months of secret trips to your ex-husband's place, you're upset I didn't consult you about my investment decisions." "That's completely different. I was helping a friend with renovations, not making major financial commitments behind your back." "Right. Helping a friend." He turned his laptop around so I could see the screen. It was some kind of social media post with dozens of photos. A gorgeous lake house, people laughing and drinking, Adam standing next to some woman I didn't recognize. "What is this?" "Our housewarming party. Last night, while you were installing bathroom fixtures with Peter." I scrolled through the photos, my heart pounding. The house was stunning, way nicer than Peter's place. And there were so many people there, people I knew, our friends, our neighbors, family members, all of them celebrating at this party I hadn't even known was happening. And Adam looked different, happier, more confident than I'd seen him in years. In every photo, he was smiling genuinely, surrounded by people who were clearly having an amazing time. "Who is she?" I asked, pointing to the woman who appeared in several photos with him. "Rachel, my business partner. She's recently divorced, understands the value of mutual respect in partnerships." The way he said it made my stomach clench. "Adam, this is crazy. You bought a house with some random woman?" "Not random. We've been planning this for weeks. While you were busy with your renovation projects, I was building something real." I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare. "We need to talk about this. This is our marriage, our finances, our future." "No," Adam said, closing the laptop. "This is my future. You made your choice when you decided I was too insecure to deserve honesty in my own marriage." "What are you talking about? I've been completely open with you about helping Peter. 3 months Madison, 3 months of gas receipts, 3 months of lies about book club, 3 months of photos on your phone showing midweek visits when you told me it was just weekends." My mouth went dry. He'd been checking up on me, going through our finances, probably going through my phone too. "So you've been spying on me?" "I've been paying attention, finally, and what I found was a wife who's been living a double life while making me feel crazy for noticing." This was spiraling out of control. "Look, I know this looks bad, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can figure this out." "There's nothing to figure out. You chose Peter over me months ago. I'm just making it official." He stood up and headed toward the stairs, leaving me standing there in shock. This couldn't be happening. We'd been together for 8 years, that had to count for something. "Adam, wait, I love you." He stopped and turned back to me. "No, you don't. You love having a backup plan while you explore other options, but backup plans work both ways. That's not what this is. Peter and I are just friends working on a project together." "Right. Just like Rachel and I are just business partners working on an investment together." His smile was cold. "Difference is, we're actually honest about what we're building." He continued up the stairs, and I followed him. "You can't just throw away 8 years of marriage over this." "I'm not throwing anything away, you already did that." He was packing a bag, not a suitcase, just a weekend bag like he was going on a short trip. "I'll be staying at the lake house until you figure out your living arrangements." "My living arrangements?" "This is my house too. Actually, the mortgage is in my name. You'll want to make other plans." My head was spinning. "You can't just kick me out of my own house." "Watch me." He zipped the bag closed and grabbed his car keys from the dresser. "You've got 30 days. More than enough time to move in with your renovation partner permanently." "This isn't over," I called as he headed for the garage. "Yes, it is." And then he was gone, leaving me standing in our bedroom surrounded by the wreckage of everything I thought I understood about my life. I spent the next hour calling people, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened, but every conversation made things worse. Our friends had all seen the party photos, had all met Rachel, had all been impressed by Adam's transformation and success. "We had no idea you weren't there," my sister said when I called her in tears. "Adam said you were working on a project. We just assumed you were busy with something else." "But didn't you think it was weird that I wasn't at his housewarming party?" "Madison, he seemed so happy. And Rachel is lovely, she's been through a tough divorce too, so they really understand each other." Rachel. This woman I'd never even heard of was suddenly part of my social circle, part of my family gatherings, part of my life. I tried calling Adam, but he didn't answer. I tried texting, but he didn't respond. It was like he just erased me from his existence. The next few days were a blur of panic and disbelief. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I tried to process what had happened, my brain just shut down. Peter was sympathetic when I told him about the situation, but even he seemed confused by the whole thing. "I mean, we were just working on the house," he said. "It's not like we were having an affair or anything." "Exactly, that's what I keep trying to tell people, but no one seems to understand." "Maybe You should give him some space to cool down. He's probably just feeling threatened by our friendship. But it had been a week, and Adam still wasn't answering my calls. And the lake house photos were still circulating on social media, getting more likes and comments every day. People were calling it the party of the year, asking when the next gathering would be. I finally drove out there one evening just to see this place that had somehow replaced me in my husband's life. The house was even more beautiful in person. Massive, perfectly maintained, with a dock and manicured gardens. Through the windows, I could see Adam and Rachel moving around inside, comfortable and domestic. They looked happy. Really, genuinely happy in a way that made my chest ache. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying to work up the courage to go knock on the door. But what would I say? What could I possibly say to fix this? Eventually, I drove home to our empty house and found divorce papers waiting on the kitchen table. The next 8 months were the worst of my life. Adam moved forward with the divorce proceedings while I scrambled to find a lawyer and figure out my finances. The house sold quickly. Apparently Adam had been planning this for longer than I'd realized, and I had to move into a cramped apartment across town. Peter tried to be supportive, but it became clear pretty quickly that our renovation partnership had been more about having someone to help with the work than any real commitment to me. When I suggested maybe moving in with him temporarily, he got uncomfortable and started making excuses about needing space. Meanwhile, Adam and Rachel's business partnership had evolved into something more. I saw the engagement announcement on social media, not because I was stalking them, but because everyone was sharing it and commenting about what a perfect couple they made. The lake house had become the social hub for our entire friend group. They hosted regular gatherings, dinner parties, holiday celebrations. All the events I used to be part of, all the people I used to call friends, now centered around Adam and Rachel's perfect life together. I tried reaching out to old friends, but the conversations were always awkward. They'd ask how I was doing, but I could tell they'd already chosen sides. And honestly, who could blame them? Adam's transformation from insecure husband to confident, successful man was impressive. His new relationship was stable and mature. Their home was beautiful and welcoming. What did I have to offer? Stories about how I'd been wronged? Complaints about how unfair everything was? The truth is, I lost everything because I thought I could have it both ways. I wanted the security of marriage with Adam and the excitement of my connection with Peter. I wanted a husband who trusted me completely while I kept secrets from him for months. I wanted him to be understanding about my choices while I made major decisions without considering his feelings. Fine. Yes, I made mistakes. I should have been more upfront about how long I'd been helping Peter. I should have included Adam in more of my decisions. I should have paid attention to how my choices were affecting our marriage. But he didn't have to destroy everything. He didn't have to buy a house with another woman and throw a party for everyone we knew while I was gone. He didn't have to turn our entire social circle against me and leave me with nothing. That's what I can't forgive. Not that he left me, but how he left me. Like I was disposable. Like 8 years of marriage meant nothing. Like I deserved to lose everything while he got to start over with someone better. So yeah, maybe I screwed up, maybe I made some bad choices, but Adam's revenge was cruel and calculated, and I'll never forgive him for that. He could have handled this like an adult instead of orchestrating my complete social and financial destruction. Now I'm 35, living alone in an apartment that smells like other people's cooking, watching my ex-husband live my dream life with someone else, and everyone acts like this is exactly what I deserved. Maybe it is, but that doesn't make it hurt any less.